I grew up in a small town in the middle of nowhere in West Virginia. The kind of place where everyone knows everyone, and if someone new shows up, people talk about it for weeks. The forests around our town were endless, dark, old. The kind of forests where the trees grow so close together that sunlight barely touches the ground. Locals always said the woods had been there long before the town, and that some things in them never left. Most people ignored those stories until the disappearances started. It began about 3 years ago. First, it was a hunter named Carl Madsen. He went out early one morning during deer season and never came back. His truck was found parked at the end of Hollow Ridge Road, rifle still inside, keys in the ignition. Search teams combed the forest for days. They found nothing. No footprints, no blood, no torn clothes, just his truck sitting there like he had stepped out for a minute and vanished into thin air. After that, people stopped parking near Hollow Ridge. But time passed, life went on. Then the second person disappeared. Her name was Lily Warren. She was 17 and worked the late shift at a diner off the highway. One night, she called her mom to say she was driving home. That was the last anyone heard from her. Her car was found the next morning at the exact same place, end of Hollow Ridge Road. Driver door open, headlights still on, but Lily was gone. After that, the rumors started. Some people said there were caves in the woods that nobody knew about. Others blamed mountain lions. But the older residents of town had a different explanation. They said something lived deep in those woods, something that only came close to the road at night, something that had been there long before our town was built. I didn't believe any of that, at least not at first. 2 months ago, my friend Tyler convinced me to go out there. He had just bought a new camera and wanted to film a creepy abandoned road exploration video for his YouTube channel. "You don't actually believe those stories, right?" he asked while driving. The road was empty except for us. Tall black trees lined both sides like walls. I shrugged. "I think people get lost in the woods, that's it." Tyler laughed. "Exactly. But if we mention the disappearances in the video, it'll get views." We drove until the asphalt ended. There it was, the place everyone talked about. The end of Hollow Ridge Road. Just dirt, forest, and darkness. Tyler parked the car. The engine clicked as it cooled in the cold night air. For a while, we just sat there listening. The woods were completely silent. No insects, no wind, nothing. That should have been the first warning. Tyler grabbed his flashlight and camera. "All right," he said, "let's walk a bit." We stepped out of the car. The air felt colder than it should have been. The beam of the flashlight cut through the darkness, revealing tall trees and thick underbrush. It felt like the forest was watching us. Every step we took sounded too loud. Crunch, crunch, crunch. After about 10 minutes, Tyler stopped walking. "Do you smell that?" I did. A strange smell. Rotting meat mixed with wet earth. I looked around. "Probably a dead deer," I said. But Tyler wasn't looking at the ground. He was staring deeper into the forest. His voice dropped. "Did you hear that?" I listened. At first, nothing. Then it came again. A sound that made my stomach twist. Something moving, slow, heavy, somewhere between the trees. Tyler pointed the flashlight toward the sound. The beam swept across trunks, branches, darkness, then stopped. At first, I thought it was a tree, tall, pale, too pale. Then it moved, just slightly, like something unfolding itself. Tyler whispered, "What the hell?" The thing between the trees slowly leaned forward, and I realized it wasn't a tree. It was standing on 2 legs, but its arms were far too long. They hung almost to the ground. Its skin looked white, almost gray, stretched tight over bones. No clothes, no hair, just long limbs and a head that tilted unnaturally to the side. The flashlight beam trembled in Tyler's hand. The creature didn't move. It just watched us. Then it opened its mouth and made a sound. Not a growl, not a scream, something worse. It sounded like a person trying to imitate human speech, but failing. A broken whisper echoing through the trees. Tyler gasped, "Run!" We ran back toward the car. Branches snapped behind us. Something was moving through the forest, fast, too fast. Tyler fumbled with the keys while I slammed the passenger door. The engine started, and just as the headlights turned on, I saw it, standing in the middle of the road, right in front of us, closer now, much closer. Its limbs were impossibly long. Its head hung forward like it couldn't support its own weight. The eyes reflected white in the headlights. Tyler shouted and slammed the gas. The car lurched forward. The creature didn't run. It simply stepped aside, slowly, like it knew we couldn't escape anyway. We drove for almost 20 minutes before either of us spoke. Finally, Tyler said, "It followed us." I turned around in my seat. The road behind us was empty. At least, it looked empty. But something deep in my gut told me we hadn't gotten away. Not really. Tyler uploaded the footage the next day, but something strange happened. The part where the creature appeared between the trees was gone, corrupted, just static. Only the audio remained. And in that audio, you could hear something whispering over and over. A voice trying to form words, trying to copy us, trying to learn. 2 nights ago, Tyler disappeared. His car was found parked at the end of Hollow Ridge Road, driver door open, headlights still on, just like the others. I went back to the footage yesterday. I listened to the whispers again, and this time, I finally understood what it was saying. Over and over, practicing, learning how to sound human. The voice in the recording kept repeating one sentence again and again and again. "Let me in." If you ever find yourself driving through the mountains at night and you see someone standing alone at the edge of the road, tall, pale, watching your car, do not stop, no matter what it says, because sometimes the thing asking for help is not human anymore.
When I was 19, I got a job working the night shift at a gas station just outside a small town in Nevada. The place was called Silver Mile Gas and Market, but nobody ever used the full name. Everyone just called it the station at Exit 13. It sat alone off a long stretch of desert highway. No houses nearby, no streetlights, just an empty road, miles of sand, and black mountains on the horizon. During the day, it was busy with truckers and travelers, but at night, it was different. My shift started at 11 p.m. and ended at 7 a.m. Most nights were boring. A few truck drivers stopping for coffee, maybe a couple tourists who were lost. Other than that, it was just me, the humming refrigerators, and the buzzing fluorescent lights. My manager, Rick, trained me on the first night. Before he left, he gave me a strange warning. "If someone comes in after 3 a.m., he said, don't go outside for any reason." I laughed. "What do you mean?" Rick didn't laugh back. "Just stay inside. Lock the door if you have to." Then he grabbed his jacket and left. At the time, I assumed he was joking. I wish I had taken it more seriously. The first few weeks were normal. Then one night, something strange happened. It was about 3:17 a.m. That was when the power flickered. Just once. The lights dimmed, then came back on. I looked up from my phone. Outside the windows, the gas station parking lot was empty. Or at least, I thought it was. Then I noticed something standing near pump number 4. A man, tall, completely still, just standing there in the dark. At first, I thought he was a customer waiting for me, but something felt wrong. He wasn't near a car. He was just standing there, looking at the building. I couldn't see his face clearly because the overhead light above the pump wasn't working, only his silhouette. I grabbed the microphone for the outside speaker. "Sir, do you need gas?" No response. He didn't move, didn't wave, didn't step closer. Just stood there, watching the store. Minutes passed, still nothing. Finally, I got annoyed. Grabbed a flashlight and walked toward the door. Then I remembered Rick's warning, don't go outside after 3 a.m. I hesitated. Then I decided it was stupid to be scared of some random guy. I unlocked the door and stepped outside. The desert air was cold, dead quiet. I walked toward pump 4. "Hey man," I called, "you need help?" No response. The man didn't move. I got closer, about 20 feet away. Then I noticed something strange. He wasn't breathing. At least, I couldn't see his chest moving. And he was facing the wrong direction. His body was pointed toward the highway, but his head was turned completely backward, looking at me. I froze. My brain struggled to understand what I was seeing. The man's neck was twisted almost all the way around. His face was pale, too pale. His eyes were wide open, and his mouth was smiling, too wide, far wider than a human mouth should stretch. Suddenly, the station lights flickered again. When they came back on, he was closer, much closer, maybe 10 feet away, but I hadn't seen him move. My stomach dropped. I slowly backed toward the door. The man tilted his head slightly, like he was curious, studying me. Then he spoke. His voice sounded dry and hollow. "Are you open?" The way he said it felt wrong, like someone who had heard humans talk but didn't quite understand how. I didn't answer. I turned and ran back inside the store. The moment I got in, I slammed the door and locked it. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped the keys. I looked through the glass. He was standing right outside now, only inches from the door, still smiling, still staring. His eyes didn't blink, not once. Then he raised one hand and slowly knocked 3 times. Knock, knock, knock. I grabbed the phone and called Rick. He answered immediately. Before I could say anything, he asked, "Is someone outside?" My voice shook. "Yes." Long silence. Then Rick said something that made my blood go cold. "Don't let him in." I stayed on the phone while Rick drove to the station. For almost 40 minutes, that thing stood outside the door, watching me, smiling, not blinking, not moving, just staring. Sometimes it would tilt its head, like it was trying to understand something. At one point, it leaned closer to the glass and whispered, "Please, let me inside." Then suddenly, it stopped smiling. Its expression went blank. Slowly, it turned around and walked into the desert. The way it moved looked unnatural. Its arms swung too long. Its steps were too wide, like its body wasn't built the way a human body should be built. Within seconds, it disappeared into the darkness. Rick arrived 10 minutes later. I told him everything. He didn't look surprised. He just nodded. Then he said something I will never forget. "That's why nobody here works the night shift alone for long." I asked him what the thing was. Rick shook his head. "No one knows." Then he pointed toward the desert. "But it only shows up after 3 a.m. I quit that job the next day. But a few months later, I checked the news from that town. The gas station was closed permanently. The article didn't explain why, but the last employee who worked the night shift was never found. And sometimes, late at night, when I'm driving alone, I remember the way that thing smiled at me through the glass, like it knew something, like it knew that sooner or later, someone would open the
door.
When I was in college, I didn't have a car. I lived in a small town about 40 minutes outside the city where my university was. So every day I took the same bus route back home. It was a long ride that cut through empty farmland, patches of forest, and a few forgotten rural stops. Most nights, the bus was full of tired students and workers. But the last bus, the one that left the city at 11:40 p.m., was usually almost empty. That was the one I took after my late classes. At first, it seemed completely normal, until one night, something strange happened. There were only 4 of us on the bus that night. The driver, a middle-aged guy named Dave, who I recognized from previous rides, a woman sitting near the front, scrolling on her phone, a man asleep in the back, and me. The bus rolled through the quiet streets of the city, stopping occasionally for empty bus stops where nobody was waiting. Eventually, we reached the highway that led out into the countryside. That's when I noticed something strange. Dave slowed the bus, even though there was no stop there. At the side of the road, standing under a broken streetlight, was a man. He was tall, thin, wearing a dark coat, and he was staring directly at the bus. The doors opened. The man stepped inside. Something about him immediately felt wrong. He moved very slowly, like each step took effort. His head tilted slightly as he walked down the aisle, and he didn't look at the driver. He didn't look at the other passengers. He only looked at me. My stomach tightened. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe he just happened to glance in my direction. But he kept staring, without blinking, without expression. He sat down 3 rows behind me. I tried to ignore it, but I could feel his eyes on the back of my head. 10 minutes later, the woman near the front pulled the cord for her stop. The bus slowed and stopped beside a lonely road leading into farmland. She got off. Now there were only 3 passengers left. Me, the sleeping man in the back, and the strange guy behind me. The bus pulled away, and the moment we started moving again, I heard something, a whisper, soft, right behind me. Is this your stop? I turned around. The man was leaning forward slightly. His face was pale. His eyes were wide and glassy. I shook my head. No. He slowly leaned back again, still watching me, still not blinking. About 20 minutes later, we reached another stop. The man in the back got off. Now there were only 2 passengers left on the bus, me and him. The bus felt suddenly too quiet, too empty. The hum of the engine sounded louder. The fluorescent lights flickered slightly overhead. I tried to look out the window and ignore him, but I could still feel his eyes, watching, studying, waiting. Then something strange happened. The bus passed my stop. At first I thought Dave had forgotten. I quickly stood up. Hey, that was my stop! But Dave didn't answer. He kept driving. The road outside became darker. The houses disappeared. The bus was now heading deeper into the countryside. My heart started racing. I walked toward the front. Dave? Still no response. Then I noticed something horrifying. Dave wasn't moving. His hands were still on the steering wheel, but his head was tilted forward, like he had fallen asleep, or worse. The bus continued rolling down the empty road. I grabbed the seat beside him and looked closer. His eyes were open, but he wasn't breathing. He looked completely frozen, like a statue. Behind me, I heard movement, slow footsteps. I turned around. The tall man was now standing in the aisle, halfway between me and the back of the bus. He hadn't been there a second ago. I hadn't heard him stand up, but now he was closer. His head tilted again, that same strange smile slowly spreading across his face.
"Why did you get up?" he asked quietly. His voice sounded wrong, like someone learning how to speak by copying recordings. I backed toward the driver's seat. "What did you do to him?" I asked. The man didn't answer. Instead, he took another slow step forward. I asked if it was your stop. The bus continued moving down the dark road. No lights, no houses, just endless black fields. My hands were shaking. I shouted, "Stop the bus!" The man tilted his head again. Then he said something that still haunts me. "This bus only stops when everyone leaves." I grabbed the steering wheel and slammed the brakes. The bus screeched violently. It slid sideways and stopped across the road. Everything went silent. I looked up. The aisle was empty. The man was gone. I searched the entire bus, every seat, every corner. He wasn't there. The doors were still closed. There was nowhere he could have gone. Police arrived about 20 minutes after I called for help. They found Dave still sitting in the driver's seat, dead. The doctor later said his heart had suddenly stopped. But that wasn't the strange part. The strange part was this. The security camera footage from the bus only showed 3 passengers that night. Me, the woman, and the man who got off earlier. The tall man in the coat never appeared on camera, not once. I stopped taking buses after that, but sometimes when I drive past rural bus stops late at night, I see someone standing under the streetlights, tall, thin, wearing a dark coat, watching the road, waiting. And every time I pass, I remember the last thing he said. "This bus only stops when everyone leaves." Which makes me wonder something terrifying. If I hadn't stopped the bus that night, would I ever have gotten off at all?